What's going on, Seguin, Texas? Welcome to Season 7, Episode 103 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Jeanette.
And we are throws coaches with the track club, the Throwing Factory. You can go to that website, thethrowingfactory.com, to check out our bios. Guys, we are starting Season 7. We're so excited about what's been going on with this podcast, something that kind of just started on a whim when COVID. We've had some amazing guests. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you for all the listeners. Just everybody in all 6 continents, and it's been a lot of fun. So I hope our content's been good for y'all and entertaining, and we're going to continue to try to get it out there.
It's about to be fall. There's not much track going on. Go find you a good podcast on here, a good episode, and listen to it when you're missing track season because of that football season. Go listen to an episode on here. Lots and lots of good people.
Or go watch us on that YouTube channel.
Oh, that's true. While you're at a football game.
Yes. So go to YouTube, search Talking Throws Podcast. It should pop up. Please subscribe. Log in with all that information so you get the uploads and get the notifications that it's been uploaded, and just check it out when you can. So our Season 7 sponsors, our Texas Track and Field Coach Association. That website is ttfca.org. Everything you need to know in track and field for 2023 and 2024 is at that website, ran by Mr. Stuart Cantor. I do know the Winter Clinic has been moved to Waco. The Hall of Fame induction is going to be, I think, on that Thursday night, and then there's going to be that Friday night, and then the clinic's going to be that Friday and Saturday at the Waco Convention Center. Go to that website to get more information on that. 4throws.com, quality implements price right. Go to 4throws.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get that 10% off. Did you know that you can get, let's pull it up, throwing shoes?
Ooh, everybody's needing some throwing shoes
On the website? Polantic throwing shoes. Right now, they have Polantic throwing shoes for $140. They have javelin shoes that you can do a rush order, international order, whatever you need. Shot put, discus, indoor shot puts. I would already start preparing for that 2024 season, so why not go order now while they have it in stock? Don't wait till after the fact when nobody has anything in stock like it always happens in March and April. Go ahead and purchase right now. Go to that website, 4throws.com. Ready Up Athletic Development. Ready Up Athletic Development offers team consulting, semi-private, and strength conditioning in the greater Austin area. That website is readyupad.com. You can contact Zach Phillips at 512-507-8347. He has developed a program called Basic Throw Strength. That program is called Basic Throw Strength, and you can go to this website, Train Heroic. And if you find the program, you use this code THROWS10, you're going to get 20% off. That website is Train Heroic. The strength program is called Basic Throw Strength. Fiber Sports Discus, a new way to get the new distance. Everybody's been starting to get really good feedback on the Fiber Sports Discus. Janelle's not prepared for our segment for Fiber Sports.
It's hiding under here.
She's getting slow.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a good discus, whether you're a junior high thrower, a high school thrower, collegiate thrower, professional thrower, Fiber Source Discus is going to help you get those marks you need to qualify for a national meet, your city meet, or maybe even your Olympic trials. The cool thing about Fiber Source Discus, you can actually go to 4throws.com and make that purchase and use that code TalkingThrows10, or you can go to the throwingfactory.com website, and there's a link at the bottom to hit for Fiber Sports Discus that will take you where you need to purchase that, and just use that code TalkingThrows10. Big Frog, Colleyville, everything that they do handles our printing and embroidering. That website is Colleyville at bigfrog.com. And then also, too, we're going to do a better job of pushing lifting DFW this year for Season 7. That's a mobile lifting station. And basically, guys, I can pull that lifting station to a park, to your house, to wherever it needs to be, and basically open up a few doors, and you have your entire gym right there that you would get at a 24-hour fitness or your local gym or whatever you need, whether it's CrossFit training, Olympic lifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever you need, we can get that taken care of. I am selling the trailers, but we're also doing a lot of private lessons and all that type of stuff. And so if you need, you got a couple buddies that needs to learn how to do proper clean and jerk or anything like that, then the Lifting DFW is the program that's going to be able to help you. Go to that website, liftingdfw.com. Episode 103, Season 7. Our guest is currently teaching and coaching in the city of Odessa. From 2016 to 2020, he played football and he threw for Texas Lutheran University in Seguin, Texas. In 2019, he was in football. He was a D3 All-American. Also that same year in 2019, he was a silver medalist in the D3 National Championship in the shot put. During his career at Texas Lutheran, he was a 4-time shot put champion in the SCAC. He's also the school record holder in the indoor and outdoor shot put. Indoor is 1767 meters. Outdoor is 1781 meters. He also is a 2015 graduate of Round Rock Stony Points High School. He had a high school PR, check this out, a high school PR in shot put of only 55 feet 3 inches, and then only in the discus only 148.8. So a guy went from those marks to throwing over almost right under 18 meters in the shot put. So something tells me he's got some good stories that we're going to get into today. So please welcome to episode 103 of season 7, Mr. Garrett Garza.
Hi.
Hey, there you are.
What's up, man?
Hi, how's it going?
Doing good, dude. Doing good, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this all week.
Well, good. Well,
I'm going to adjust a few things here real quick.
Okay.
So, I'm excited because you're going to be our first D3 thrower that we've had on. But one thing too is, dude, is your legacy, what you did at Texas Lutheran is after we got investigating it and stuff, you're like, wow, he's had a really good throwing career. So,
Yes, sir.
And so now in your teaching and coaching, so you kind of come full circle for us. So you're definitely our guest mainstream and our audience mainstream. So
Awesome. All right. Well, I get to ask the first question. Tell us when you first started throwing. What was that story like? Was it because you didn't want to run on the track? That's what most people tell us, because they saw the run and they said, no, let's go throw. So what was your first introduction to throwing?
I'm the youngest out of 6, so my first introduction was when my older siblings started throwing in my family's kind of select summer track league. It was very small, just a few families that got together. I was very, very skinny, so when my parents saw me, they're like, all right, just put him in the 400 or put him in the 800. But my older brothers and my older sister were definitely matured a little faster, so they were able to throw and be pretty successful at it. In the summer leagues, my brother was an All-American in the hammer and shot. My older sister was All-American in the hammer. And then there was me just, trying to throw the little 6-pound shot like 10 feet when my little scrawny arms. So that was my first introduction. It was not a great start when I started. I was out there because I loved it. I was very undersized going into football and youth track. But all of my family did it, so I wasn't going to be left out. So eventually I stuck with it.
So was your dad and your mom y'all's throws coach? Was this something y'all just kind of got with like 4 or 5 families together and just kind of said, all right, we're going to have these uncontested meets?
Yeah, pretty much. We ended up going to a few track leagues and track meets for it. My parents were pretty much my throws coaches all the way through my freshman year. After that, my school was able to hire a throws coach that actually was able to take this time. He ended up being my offensive line coach as well. Oh, wow. His name was John Luke. I'm thoroughly grateful for him for getting me where I was. But no, for all of my siblings, my parents essentially volunteered while we were in high school to coach the throws. And there was sometimes a stipend coach that would be there. I think the one that I know was his name was Rocky Clark. He's now coaching in Austin. He even knew, he's like, look, guys, I know I don't know the world's greatest amount of knowledge on throws. He's like, but he's like, I will be determined to learn, so I can help y'all while I'm here. And then when he left my freshman year, we didn't have one going in the spring, so I was back with my parents again.
Gotcha. So your first introduction throwing that 6-pound in junior high, were you a glider? Were you a shuffler? What, kind of how'd that look?
Oh, I tried to be a glider because my older siblings were stuck to the full glide as soon as they were early. So I like to try to be a little courageous with it in my youth. I'm sure I looked awful. I'm sure it was terrible. I probably should have been shuffling, but I was courageous enough to only try and glide about 33 feet in junior high.
Gotcha.
What is your parents' background in throwing? Because you said your brothers and sisters knew how to throw. They coached
Mhm.
So where did they throw, or where did they get their knowledge of throwing?
Or even your brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
My parents actually never threw. My dad was he ran the distance medley relay and a lot of the mid-distance sprints when he was in high school. Him and his team down at Southside High School ended up doing pretty well. My mom was at Edison, and she was just a sprinter on the track. They did not touch the throws until we started getting into it. So that's when they started buying all the old DVDs, going to clinics. They started trying to learn because we all eventually started becoming throwers. We didn't really sprint too fast.
Or want to run the long distances like that.
Yes.
So when you were in junior high, you referenced your older sister and older brother that were all American hammer throwers. What was the age difference between y'all two? The ages.
So I was the youngest. My oldest sister right now just turned 40. So I am 26 right now. So it was a much bigger difference. When I was in junior high, my oldest sister had already graduated, and my oldest brother was just getting into his senior year. It was kind of very intimidating because I was trying to throw like 30 feet, and he had already set the record at my junior high. He threw 52 feet in junior high.
Wow.
Yes.
So what's your brother's name? We might need to get him on for a guest.
You will. His name's Jesus Garza.
I'm sorry.
Jesus Garza.
Jesus Garza. Okay.
You should have made this a family thing.
Oh, I'm sure he'd love it. He went to throw at Mount Union for a little bit, and then ended up going down to A&M Kingsville. So that's where he finished out his years. But no, he has the record for shot put at my middle school. My brother has the record for discus. The other one, his name's Eric. And then Jesus has the record for shot put at my high school at Stony Point. It's like 61 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't touch it, but I have the college record, so I'm okay with that.
There you go. So what about your sister? What's kind of her little story and background?
So she really didn't take to the shot put and discus well, but she was one that could push the ball on the hammer. She was great about getting that momentum going. So she stuck with it all the way through in her summer leagues. But when she got to high school, she focused more on golf. So she was one of the decorated golfers.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Family of athletes.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
That is awesome.
You said there were 6 of you. So that
Yes, ma'am.
What did that cover 4 of you?
It got used 5.
Yeah, so there's my oldest sister, Heather. She was the All-American hammer. Then there was Jesus. He was the shot putter that eventually went to Kingsville. Eric went to A&M Corpus on a track scholarship. And then Daniel and Brandy didn't, they both did high school track. They just didn't go anywhere afterwards. And then there was me.
Oh, wow. So you were the baby.
Oh, yes. That's all I heard.
Well, I think that most of the youngest in the family always kind of had the most successful career. You hear say of that stuff, so I'm sure that was the case maybe in your family. So
it was for me. It was a very
It
was a very big shout out for them when I started beating them in college. I love that. I was like, I could lose in high school, but you can stay there with your high school trophies. I'm doing better now. I got college rings.
So your freshman year, you're throwing about 30 feet. Your brother holds the school record. You didn't get close to that. You go into Round Rock, Stony Point. You said you had a coach that kind of influenced you. Was that Coach John Luntz?
John Luke.
John Luke. Okay. And so he kind of introduced you to the glide and discus. Kind of what had he helped you out with?
So he introduced me to the glide, being more technical. We did try to transfer me to the spin, which that went, awesomely. So he was like, look, you're either going to figure it out in the spin or you're going to stick back to glide. Which one? And I was like, well, let's see how this meet went. And then I literally did the shuffle, the glide, the spin, and press all in one. He was like, and we're sticking with the glide. So
oh, wow.
that's how we decided that. And then he finally started working with my discus. I was kind of awful at discus until I progressed my junior and senior year of high school and then later in college. So I eventually picked up the spin and discus, but I glided and I slowly got better. I threw 39 freshman year. Sophomore year, I threw right about 45, 46. Junior year, I peaked at 49. And then senior year, I hadn't broke 50 and it was getting close to district. And so the meet before district, I throw 50, one throw. And then like 2 throws later, I throw 51. And then at district, I throw 53. Area, I threw 55. And at regionals, I threw 56 to get fourth.
Wow.
So, and finally, all started clicking at one point.
Wow. Now you played football too. So you're freshmen, you're a multi-sport athlete, right?
Yes, sir. Football all 4 years.
So what did your freshman year, you said you were kind of small. Were you playing line then?
Yes, sir. I played the line. I was a tackle. I ended up I was about 160 my freshman year, 180 my sophomore year. And then I had a tremendous summer that going into my junior year. And so I went from 185 to about 255, 260. And so I had a great summer.
Doing what?
All I was doing was lifting, eating, and running because I still kept my speed at a 4.9. So wow. I worked hard. It was a hell of a summer.
Wow,
yeah, that's impressive.
So did Coach Luke or Luck introduce you to weightlifting at an early age as well?
So yes, my freshman year, he came in later in that spring. He ended up taking over the weight training program. And so all my strength builds from there. He got the whole team stronger. I went from barely touching about 240, 250 to benching about 315, 320 by my junior year. So he helped, his program ended up doing great for the team, not only for the football team, but he did it for, I believe, the track team as well. And then I think the basketball team had their own, but he did a great job for ours.
Wow. And that contributed to that increase in size for sure.
Yes, sir, for sure. Because we lifted 4 times a week during the summer, and then we lifted 4 times a week in season. We'd get 3 times during the week, and then we'd be off Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday we'd go get our last lift. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then lift on Saturdays after the game.
Gotcha. So now during football season, were you throwing? Were you doing anything like that on Saturdays and Sundays with your older siblings and stuff? Or did you just kind of wait, I'm not touching a shot put until after football season's over?
Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, there would be a weekend where I would go, usually towards the end of the season when we knew how pretty much season was going to pan out. If I was going to start throwing early, if I knew we were going to be in off season by November, December, I was going to start throwing on Sundays, and it was never more than once a week.
Once a week,
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Were y'all? Did he implement heavy shot puts or light shot puts during that training?
Yes, I started throwing with the 16 a lot when I was working. I would mainly do it on the front of the throws. Eventually, I would start using a lighter shot put when I was trying to get moving faster in the ring. Start training there. Same thing with the disc. I would throw with the college disc during my fulls.
Gotcha. So were you battling to say, okay, after that, you're going into your junior year and you put on this size, was like, okay, I want to be a college football player, or do I feel my path is going to be a college thrower?
I had kind of thought the idea. I said, if I was meant to do one, I was going to stand out in one more than the other. And I felt like if that was true, then I would feel it and I would know. But I had such a love for both of them. All it did was make me get closer to my teammates, closer to my coaches, because we spent a lot of time in individual parts of practice with the offensive line just by ourselves. And then same thing with throws. We were up on top of a hill, so we were just all by ourselves as well. So it just made me kind of keep that camaraderie that I knew that I couldn't really get rid of either or, because the O-line and the throwers were both just a close-knit group of teammates, and that was something that I knew was probably going to carry on whichever way I went, if I went one or the other or both.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What about in the springtime when it was track season and you had off-season football? How did you manage that?
So in my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, we would practice would be after school. So we did spring football in the period, and then afterwards I would go to track practice. So I would still lift and practice with the team, and then after school I would get my practice. The only time I didn't was going into my junior year, or the spring of my junior year, going into my senior year. I didn't participate in like the Oklahoma drills one practice because it was the day before my regional meet. And so my coach was like, look, this is where we have a chance to stay. This is where we'll pull off for that. He's like, every other day we're full practice, full tilt, but it's, 2 days before the meet, we're going to taper off a little bit. So
Gotcha. Now football, which, I did, and throw as well. What did you like that there's differences between that individual aspect, and the success is up to you in throwing, but the camaraderie of 5 people working together, controlling the line of scrimmage, rushing for 300 yards for your running back. Did you like both of that? Kind of walk us through your mentality approach to each.
I did, especially in high school. I didn't really understand kind of like the uniformity of a track team, because we never really had the world's biggest track team. We had a lot of studs. We would take about 8 to regionals, 8 or 9, but we never had enough depth to make it to where we were pushing for a district championship or an area championship. So I never, again, it was really, we're like, who's going to be the 8 to go to regionals this year? It was never, hey, we need certain points here, we need certain points there. So that we didn't have just enough buy-in to the program. Track wasn't as important to the student body as, basketball, baseball, and football was. So I lost a little bit there, but in football, definitely. I mean, it was there. I mean, I loved playing next to the lineman that I had. And again, we rotated in about 2 others, so it was more of like 6 or 7 that were getting it done there, other than 5. So, and Coach Luke really helped build that. He made it important that it was really about the guys next to you, not just so much what you're going to get out of this, how you're going to perform during this game. During track, it was a little different, obviously, because, like I said, we didn't have that whole team side. It was more of how we could make, this program shine with the little number we had. And really, that's what it kind of turned out to be, because my head track coach, his name was Joe Vosick. Great guy. I love him. But he bled track and field. He loved it. He did so much for the program. He would be the one. He would pay for meals for the team when we didn't have a whole lot. He would take everyone. He would take water, snacks, chairs. He would go to Goodwill. He would buy hoodies, toboggans. He would buy gloves, because he knew, a lot of our kids and there's a lot of ones that were good. We didn't have many that had a whole lot. So he definitely did his best to take care of them. And during kind of towards the end, my junior year and my senior year, I realized, some of it was for him, because we got to give him a reason to go to regionals. We got to take him to Baylor because he loved it. So we would try to get as far as we could, because at that point we thought we were taking care of him by prolonging the season, because he was an old guy, but he loved everyone. So that was ours, giving back to him when we succeeded.
So is he still coaching? Is he still with us? You said he was an old
guy.
He
he did retire. So he's still living in the Austin area, but he retired, I think, about 4 or 5 years after I did. After I left, he ended up going to Pflugerville Conley for a little bit, but then after that he retired. But he was a great guy. He was our freshman football coach and the JV coach. He loved taking just the guys that obviously weren't, they weren't the greatest athletes. They weren't going to be the ones that would eventually play on Friday nights, but they still were in the program and wanted to play football. And those were the guys he loved to coach, because it didn't matter. They were going to learn football and they were going to be good. It's like, you may not be good enough to play Friday, but you're going to play football and we're going to win.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
What happened to Coach Luke?
So Coach Luke stayed there throughout my my high school. The year after, when I left, he ended up going to Pflugerville Conley for a short time. Then he went to Seguin, where Texas Lutheran is. So he ended up coaching at Seguin for a little bit with Coach Bush, who he played college football with. And so then afterwards, he left there and went to Cedar Park. And when Cedar Park went to state, and then afterwards, he once they had some changeover at Cedar Park, he ended up coaching at Westlake, where his son ended up finished playing, and now his son is going into his freshman year at Kansas University. So he's excited. I believe he's still teaching at Westlake, but we're excited to watch Hunter play because he was a little kid when I was in high school, so I remember him at all the practices.
Okay. When you said that name, because I used to coach in the South, in the Golden Triangle area, I was like, I know that name, John Luke. And that makes sense now being at Austin Westlake because Todd Dodge was from Port Arthur. So during I knew, I was like, I know that name for some reason, but anyway, I digress and stuff like that. Hey, one thing I want to bring up is going to that regional meet where you threw your 56 feet, okay, which was your PR. I have to ask, do you remember who won that meet?
Yes, I remember who won that meet because he won it. He won it for 3 years in a row, and then went to state and won 3 years in a row. Yeah, Tripp was something else. He was ridiculous to watch because my junior year he was a freshman and he ended up getting second at the regional meet, and so I was like, wow. Then I kept watching. Of course, he got third his freshman year. No one came close after that. So I remember going. We all knew it was pretty much who was going to get second to go qualify for state. We knew no one was touching him. It was amazing to watch him throw.
Second, third, and fourth, you were right there with those guys to possibly make it to state. I know. And that was going to be my next question too. And I know you're not going to remember this, but I'm going to ask you or know who this is. Do you remember who finished 11th in that meet?
I don't remember, but
had him on the podcast.
Well, so he's a big name now in the world of throwing, especially here in the U.S. Timon Johnson.
Timon.
Yeah, Southwest Texas.
I knew he went because we went to a few meets before then, but I forgot that he ended up dropping low because he had a better PR than me. He was throwing about 56, 57 all year. He had a bad meet, but no, I know. Yeah, Timon and I ended up. We never got to throw against each other in college.
You didn't?
No, he was always at another meet when I went to Texas State. So I went to Texas. When I went to Texas State, I believe he was at the Texas Relays that week. So they let the rest of their team there for the home meet, but we never got to throw at a meet together. But whenever I saw him, I always talked to him about it because it was great that he ended up going there. And I'm so happy that he's been going to USA Nationals. I always watch him whenever I turn on.
And that's just like in your story too. The circle goes full circle, and you never know who you're going to compete against, and never know, hey, I threw against you, and you never know how their path is going to wind up. And that's a cool story. I didn't even know that either till I opened up the profile. I was like, oh wow, look who he threw against.
Got some big.
Oh no, yeah, I threw against him about 2 or 3 meets our senior year. He was a stud.
Wow, that is awesome. So you get to your senior year, you have a really good, but not big numbers. You threw 148 in the disc, 56 in the shot put. What are you looking at? Colleges, who's reached out to you? What's going on? You have your older siblings that were throwing collegiate athletes. What influence did they have on you? Kind of what were you thinking or doing?
I knew I definitely wanted to go somewhere where I could make my own mark. And that's what eventually kind of led me to where I found myself. I had an opportunity just to go throw track at UNT. I had a few opportunities to go D2 ball and a few in Kansas, Arkansas. I had an opportunity to go down to Kingsville. My brother was already there. But I knew I didn't want to go anywhere where my siblings were. And my sister was at UNT and my brother was at Kingsville. So I knew I didn't want to go with them because I had to see them again. But so I ended up, I had known that an alumni that graduated before me, Christian Ahrens, ended up going to play football at Texas Lutheran University, and Marty Davenport was the throws coach. And Davenport we had already practiced with Davenport a little bit back in our youth days. So when my parents were still learning, they would reach out to a few coaches. He was the coach at Texas State at one time. I forgot his name. Coach Hall. I think it's Coach Hall. But we had done a few camps with him, and gone up to him on a few weekends, but Davenport was one of the main ones that we went with. And so Marty was there. And so I ended up getting recruited for football there. And I knew they had a throws program, and it had just started. It was in its first year when I was a senior. So I had known, I was like, okay, it's young, it's new. I was like, I know I'm not the world's greatest shot putter or discus thrower right now, but I was hoping that they would take me as a walk-on. And so I eventually reached out to Coach Davenport, and he expressed, we never turn away athletes, especially ones that want to come out. He's like, we're, a new program. So they were recruiting, but they hadn't recruited me or my area yet either. There wasn't many that they recruited from there. So what sold it for me was that I could do both still. Because a few of the other programs that I had thought about, I was only going to do one or the other. TLU was really one of the only options where it was a tremendous education, and that with great small class size numbers. And then also I had the opportunity to be successful in football and in track. So I thought that was a great opportunity for me. And I didn't look like it was going to be too hard to get on the team without them recruiting me. So I ended up going there. And again, the main thing was knowing that, I could go there and make my own mark. And I eventually did. And that's when, my siblings were, well, what about here? What about here? I was like, no, this is going to be home for a little bit. So there it was.
The Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Coaches education through our annual winter clinic, the state's #1 track and field clinic. Texas Track and Field promotion, our postseason Meet of Champions, lobbying efforts with the state's governing bodies, the Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame. If it involves Texas Track and Field, we're at the forefront. Join our mission in continuing to make Texas Track and Field the nation's best.
Can I ask, so when you were thinking about Texas Lutheran, and of course, football was kind of driving that, and you were looking to walk on to throwing, did you just come out and tell football, the head coach, that say, hey, I want to throw too? Now, I asked you that to set up this. Were they receptive of it, or were they like, no, we just want you to play football?
So my head coach at the time was Danny Padron, a big name down in San Antonio high school football for a while. He ended up being who I was going to talk to. And then my offensive line coach was Coach Carl Gustafson. Gustafson Field out there in San Antonio is named after his father. So He's a big name in football. Yeah. So I eventually talked to them about throwing, and they both said, if you're in track, you're competing full time around. So that competitive mindset sticks with you all year round. That can only better you. They said, but I want you to know, if you're going to be in football, you're going to be in off season. Just because you're in track, you're not going to miss off season. So I had to make the commitment to not only do my football off season workouts, but my in season track workouts and my in season track practice. So I knew that it was going to be a lot, because workouts were at 6 a.m. for football in the off season. But I was nothing I wasn't used to already in high school. I came from a pretty strict program, so that kind of set me up. And eventually what geared my success was really attacking both workouts, because that only excelled me further and faster. I ended up getting a lot stronger and getting a lot more muscle mass and getting a much better athlete when I was at TLU, because it was a college weightlifting and speed training program. So both of them definitely helped propel me. So I would rather say it definitely helped me doing both sports. And I think the coaches were very receptive of it, because they knew track and football was going to be the easiest. If you are going to be track and baseball, they've only had 2 in TLU history, football and baseball. They've only had 2 in TLU history that have done that. So they definitely are more friendly with track being able to be dual sport athletes than any other sport.
Wow. So that freshman year, walk us through that, kind of that off season. Did you get redshirted in football your freshman year, or did you actually play?
I played my freshman year because I ended up making the travel squad on week 2. So I ended up playing that year, and then in track I ended up varsity letting as well. I still get mad because that was the only year I got second at conference in shot put, but it was to one of my better friends named Alex Basigno. He ended up getting first that year, but not after that.
Yeah.
But no.
So that freshman year, like, you had those 6 a.m. workouts, you would go to class for 2 to 3 classes, and then, have lunch. Then your your in-season weightlifting and then throwing afterwards? Is that typically how your day was?
Typically it was. So what it was is I had 6 a.m. workouts. That's when we tried to get our 8 a.m.s out of the way. If we had to schedule an 8 a.m. class, because we'd finish at like 7:30, and then we'd get breakfast and then go straight to class. So it'd be in class for most of the mid-morning or mid-afternoon, early afternoon. And then we'd go to throws practice. And then after that, I'd go to weights. Now, when spring football hit around, that's when things got a little hectic, because spring football with pads would start in around March and April, and that's right around when conferences.
Oh,
So
wow.
the way that worked out was we'd still have 6 a.m. lifts. So I'd go to 6 a.m. lifts, then go to class. Then I would go to depending on what classes I had. If I had an earlier class, if I had time, I would go through throws practice before track practice or football practice. If not, then I would go to my football meetings, football practice, straight to throws practice, and then go eat. Then I'd go get my track lift in, and then I'd go start homework.
Oh, dude. Wow.
So, what kind of student were you? Were you
The teacher asked that question.
Yeah. Were you a great student, or classes just pretty easy for you?
It took a lot for me to definitely be conditioned for a college academic struggle. So it took me a little bit my freshman and sophomore year, especially with the athletic side. And then so my sophomore year, I ended up getting injured. I tore my pec right before fall camp. So that geared me down too. So my freshman and sophomore year, I wasn't really proud of myself academically, but eventually once I started getting the hang of college, I ended up being academic all conference. So I ended up getting with 3.5, 3.7s my junior and senior year. It definitely took a little bit though, my first 2 years when I was getting my core grades, and math was not my friend. College math was not my friend, but I eventually became a good writer. So my composition classes got easier. My history classes where I could do that in my sleep because I loved it so much. So I had for my college history degree, I had to take a lot of academic writing classes. So I ended up only needing 2 more classes to get an English minor. So I got that as well. So it definitely took a little bit, but I had to learn how to become a better student just as much as I had to learn how to become a better athlete.
Wow, that's amazing. So
that's good.
So I have to ask you, your freshman year, do you remember your hammer PR?
Oh my God, what was it, like 29, 30 meters?
Yeah, there you go.
You threw the hammer?
That's
How many times did you throw the hammer before you threw it in?
How many turns?
That was definitely a 1 turn. Hammer was
a 1 turn.
Yeah, it was a 1 turn. It was awful. Everyone makes fun of me because they all know, because of course I always wanted to try everything. So, and I wanted to really learn the hammer, but the hammer didn't want to be learned by me. So the hammer didn't stick with me.
The hammer was like, no, put me down.
Yeah, it was like either you put me down or I'm putting us both down, and that happened a lot most of the time.
Oh, that is funny. Well,
and the javelin.
Your sophomore year.
I ended up throwing the javelin because I knew once then we were trying to win conference, and we didn't win it my freshman year. I remember we were down 20 points going into the last race, and we knew Trinity had us because their long distance program was good. So we knew going into 3,000 meter before the 4x4 that it was going to be tough. We'd have to pull some miracle off, and we didn't. But so I started looking at, well, okay, what could I do better? And one of them wasn't the hammer. So I decided to try and pick up the javelin. And so I knew I was only going to do the javelin if I was going to score at meets. And because same thing with hammer, I was only going to have to throw it if I could score at a meet for conference, really. So I picked it up, started practicing it. By that time, so my freshman year, our coach was Marty Davenport. My sophomore year, it was he's part of Momentum. He's leading Momentum Throws. His name is escaping me right now. He's up in the Dallas area.
Oh, Jared.
Yes, Jared. Yes, he's gonna kick my butt because I forgot his name on a podcast. but yeah. So eventually we started picking it up so that way we could all try and figure out what we need to do to score. We were pulling about 60, 70 points back then in the throws, and we knew that wasn't enough because we were like, we need to score more. And like, because we knew we had the opportunity, and we knew that if we were going to lose and not win conference, it wasn't going to be because the throws were lacking. Eventually, we got to the point where my senior year, we were scoring about 86 points on the throws, and that really helped us propel to win conference the 3 years in a row after that.
Wow. So when did Ben Wolf come in?
Ben Wolf came in so I redshirted in football in my winter sprint in my indoor track my sophomore year when I tore my pec. So after that, I had Jared, and then he came in the year after that. Jared left, and Coach Wolfett came, and he was brand new, big old dude from Ohio.
Yeah.
And I had known,
He was a great thrower, by the way.
You know, we always got on him about it. He wasn't that good. That was one of the main things. We always got on him. He was like, "Hey, I may not have been that good, but look at what I've coached." I was like, "So do as I say, not as I do." Got it. Cool. And so he came in at a really good time for me, because towards that, after my injury, again, my academics were lacking. You know, I had started slacking off, and I wasn't really in a good place. And so he came in, and I was kind of in my rebel mode. I had a great football season, and I decided I was gonna, take track head on. And so I had decided, I'm ready to kind of see if I can do it for indoors. And so I decided, I know indoors is a little different, but I was going to take it. And my head track coach, again, her and I butted heads decently. Her name's Darlene Holland. She finally retired from TLU. But in the end of the day, I learned how to respect her, and it was a great teaching moment for me, because it made me realize how immature I was and how thankful I was that they all taught me those lessons. So when I was going into that year, she was going to take some of the team to an indoor meet in Dallas, and I was like, "Oh, it's great," but it was going to be a reward for everyone that went through off season. She was going to take the team. Well, I didn't do track off season because I was in football. I had no time.
Yeah.
And so she said, "Well, I can't take you because that would be unfair to everyone else." I said, "But look at the numbers. I before the season even starts, I'm close to what qualified for nationals last year. I'm ready to go. I can beat anyone that's at that meet." She said, "Well, that's not the point. That's not the point of what we're trying to do here." So I got mad, and so I entered the meet unattached.
Oh wow, the one up in Frisco.
The one up in Frisco, and so I ended up. Coach Wolf ended up being his first day there, and so we meet him, start talking, and I again was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm gonna be at that meet. I know, you're gonna be there. I'm not gonna be thrown with you. I'm gonna be thrown attached." And so I ended up getting a text from my head coach saying, "You're not allowed to go to that because I haven't given you leave to. You have to have permission from your track program to compete unattached, according to NCAA." And I said, "Well, why would you not give me permission? I'm taking myself to the meet. I'm playing. I'm not competing under the school. The school has no liability." I was completely fine if she said yes, and she did not, because then I was pushing back, and there was a principle to be set. And of course, going into that year, that went way over my head. I was like, "There's no, like, listen to my logic. There's no way I'm wrong." Well, there is. It's because you're going to do what you're told, and you're gonna be a part of the program, or you're not. And so I eventually learned the lesson, and so I ended up not going to the meet, and the good Lord works in mysterious ways, because that meet was canceled.
Oh.
So didn't go. So yeah,
it
was a good learning lesson
from that.
It was a great learning lesson.
One thing I want to highlight is, your junior year, you go to outdoors, and you go almost 15, 30 meters, and you get 15th place. That was kind of maybe your first time on a big stage besides conference, considering you didn't go to Texas relays, you didn't go to the regionals, you didn't go to the state meet in high school. Kind of, like, did your mindset was like, "Oh my God, what's going on here? Am I ready for this?" Kind of tell us about that.
So what happened there was, I had already grown with Coach Wolf. Him and I had definitely gelled. And I think he knew I was still a little bit of an immature athlete. So I went in thinking, I'm the kid from Texas and I'm the only thrower from Texas making it. I'm going to go and show out. So I went there like it was me and it was my show. And that definitely humbled me real quick when I got there because I wasn't ready for it. I had good practice when I was up there, but definitely when it got going, the scene was pretty big for me. Again, great humbling teaching moment, and very glad I had that year, and then was able to go thereafter because that pretty much set up the motion. So I went there thinking I was all that, and then I saw everyone else. I saw Blaze, I saw all the Eau Claire throwers, and I saw everyone that definitely had a different mindset than I did. It was another meet for them, and I was acting like it was my meet, and so that definitely humbled me. But again, like I said, very glad that it happened then, and it wasn't my last rodeo there.
Yeah. Well, and that was the point I was going to make is less than 6 months later, 8 months later, you're at the NCAA championship for indoor now, and you make the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
you learn trial and error.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I knew, and Coach Wolf knew that going to nationals wasn't enough anymore. We had goals. And so it was me, Darren Jones, and Ashley Reinhard. We ended up going to indoors. And again, we weren't going there just to make it anymore. I wasn't going there for a free trip to Boston. I had goals in mind. I wanted to be an All-American. And that was my goal the entire season, especially for indoor. So my buddy, who was a biochem major, who ended up being one of my roommates in our apartment, he put up a whiteboard in the living room so he could do all his work, write out his notes out. Well, he ended up leaving that graduating, so he left the board there. So every day I wrote down what my goal was, and I left it there, and I'd look at it when I'd walk out of my room and when I'd go to bed. And so it was always at first it was beat my PR, and then it was okay because I knew my PR would get me to indoors. So it would be my PR. And then it was after I beat it, it was to get over 17 meters. And then it was as soon as I rolled around the nationals, it was to place top 8. So that way I can get All-American. And so that I wrote it down and I left it there. And I would only race it if it was completed. And so throughout the outdoor seasons when I got a race mostly, but in the indoor season, it was very, very humbling because I looked at it and I knew it was obtainable, but I knew I couldn't go into this nationals like I did my last nationals. And so I knew that I had to go and perform. And Coach Wolf and I had talked about it. We took that season more of like it was a business mentality. I was there to go to work and I was there to perform. I wasn't there for anything else. Yeah. And so that's what it was every practice. Every practice I was there trying to get better. And so that's when my technique kind of started advancing more because I wasn't there just trying to throw or hit a number. I ended up focusing a lot more on my technique and a lot more on what I needed to do. And so that on top of
Were you rotation then?
Yeah. So my freshman year I glided, and after that I was rotational. And so it was all that's why my first year into rotation, it was a lot of learning process. I was just a big old boulder that needed to be chipped away at every practice. And then I got to fine tuning my junior and senior year. And that was very important for me to definitely progress the way I did throughout the entire season. That and Coach Wolf's training progress, the way we did training was everything was geared towards from the start of the season. My workouts were different than those that we knew weren't going to go on after conference. So my peak weeks were going to be later in the season, like February for indoor season or early March for the indoor nationals, and then start the training process over again because I needed to peak again in May, not in April. I didn't need to throw my farthest at conference. I didn't need to throw my farthest at the big meets we're going to. I needed to throw the farthest at nationals. And so his training regimens definitely helped prepare me for my big meets when I needed them.
Wow. Now, what was his mindset with walking you through or helping you through football?
So he was the same way. He played football until he got hurt and then ended up doing track. And that's when he grew to love track. And he had coached at other schools where he had coached football and track. And so he had done the same. Okay. So he definitely knew that it was going to be a struggle. But by then, my O-line coach had become my head coach. And so he took a more active role in obviously the team. And then he, again, knowing me personally more, took more attention to my throwing. And so when I think it was my junior year, we knew we were out of playoff contention. And so Coach Wolf had started in November the throws. And so he was like, hey, y'all that are in football, y'all can come out if y'all want to. It's voluntary practice. I cannot make y'all, we're just finally starting getting throwing. And so we're like, Mondays are off days. Let's go out there. Let's go throw. Let's get ready for the season. We're still going to compete, for football. We're still going to practice every day. But Mondays were our off days because NCAA required a full off day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember it's about the second to last week of the season. And me, our starting linebacker, we convinced to come out and throw. And then my friend Brick are out there throwing. And my head coach drives out of the parking lot and he can see the rings from there. And he slows down, sees us, takes a left instead of a right and goes to the athletic director's office, goes to talk to him, and then comes back 10 minutes later. He goes, boys, what are y'all doing? And he's like, and we're like, oh, coach, we're throwing. It's our day off. And so he says, Coach Wolf, got to talk to you for a minute. And we're like, did we just get Coach Wolf fired? We were like so worried. And so he ended up saying to Coach, these guys can't be practicing. We're still in season. He's like, sir, I understand. He's like, Coach, I told them this was not mandatory practice. I told them they were still in the group chat from last year. I said the throwers were finally starting having practice. This is the time. It is voluntary. I can't make any of y'all come. And so he was like, well, it's not voluntary for them. He's like, they're in football until the football team season's done. And so we were like, okay, all right. That makes sense. Sorry, Coach. We'll run later. So we left because we didn't want to get Coach Wolf in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So did that meet give you some confidence indoor to propel you into your senior year? Because, man, all of a sudden you start jumping over 17 meters. Your hammer improves to almost 40 meters. Your discus goes up to over 45. You actually win a meet in the discus too.
Yes. It was that my senior year in track and field was tremendous. I couldn't have been more ecstatic to have a season like that and to have a season with Coach Wolf like that. Because we had talked that whole year because he had told me finally then. He was like, what happens when a runner or a thrower or a jumper wins their event? And I was like, no. He's like, well, that coach gets to hand, all the athletes that are All-Americans their awards at nationals. I was like, I didn't know that. And so that's what I knew I knew it was going to be tough to win it that year, but I knew I was getting ready for that next indoor season. And so ever since then, it was trying to obtain that goal to see him and him see me on that podium. And so that's when things started clicking. Again, I started taking more attention to my technique. I started, helping the other throwers because again, we were working to win conference again, and I was not going to lose conference my senior year. And so that's when I said, hey, how far do I need to throw hammer? And he was like, you throw. He's like, I think 33, 34 will probably score. I was like, okay. So I started working on the hammer once a day. I did shot every day. I did the hammer once a week, shot every day of the week, and then discus 2 times a week. Oh, so wow. I was trying to progress in all of them, but I knew shot put was my baby, and I was going to take care of her first. So I started working at it, and then I even tried javelin for a little bit, and then I hurt myself. I tweaked something. So that's why javelin was over after that. But no, a lot of it was preparing to win conference and then preparing to go to nationals and compete there. That's why I ended up going to a few bigger meets. We ended up going to Rice. We ended up going to Texas State, UIW. Yeah. We ended up taking care of those meets because I knew if I could compete there, I could be with the best. And especially one of the biggest meets I liked was going to Grand Falls. Grand Falls is always fun.
You threw, is that where you threw your 1742, I believe? Your
senior year? My senior year, 1742, I think so, somewhere there. Yeah. And then Grand Falls, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you're just having a tremendous senior year, and all of a sudden, you throw big PRs, and all of a sudden COVID hits.
That was hard.
So you went 1767 for your last indoor meet in February. Then, I'm guessing 2 or 3 weeks later, COVID hits, right?
Yeah. We had started hearing about it probably around the time when I threw that in Houston and when I threw that at A&M, we had
Yeah.
started hearing about it, but we were like, "There's no way, like, come on, what's going to happen?" So we get there it's COVID week, and there's a lot of restrictions about travel, and we're like, "All right, we're gonna go to North Carolina anyways." Like, well, we flying or we driving because it doesn't matter. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I was the only one that ended up making it, so it didn't matter to me how we got there. We ended up flying there. We're still checking news. We're trying because we had heard rumblings about COVID being in the USA that weekend. We're like, it's not like it's gonna matter. It was like it's nationals. No one can cancel nationals. That can't happen.
Right.
And so we end up getting there, and we start hearing about teams that are not coming. The entire, I think, either Wisconsin lacrosse or North Central wasn't going to go because they weren't going to fly because they didn't want to risk it. And so a bunch of the alumni started, talking to the school board. They started talking to the AD, and eventually they got charter buses rented. And from Wisconsin all the way to North Carolina, it was, they were driving a ridiculous amount of hours to get there. And so they started doing that. I get there, and me and Coach Wolf check in. I buy my shirts. So I'm excited. We take pictures, and I get ready, and I have my first practice, and I'm clearing 18 meters, low to mid 18s, and I think I was ranked number one at one time. Ended up going in ranked number 3, but the top 3 were switching every week. So we were all there. We're all having practice. We were all talking because we're like, "There's no way." And then we get there. Halfway through practice, they announced they're not going to allow spectators. And we're like, "Okay, well, guys, we are all talking. We're like, we don't care. We're going to throw. If we need to get each other hype, we will, because we're still going to compete." And so all the throwers are in agreement. It's like, we're fine with that. And so we're all taking good throws, and we knew we still had 2 days till we threw. And then we all leave because they say, "All right, the practice summit's over. Go home." They said, "By the way, the national dinner is canceled, so we're not going to have everyone there." Said, "So go home. The meet starts when it starts. Nothing's changing there." We're hearing the same thing from D1, and so we leave. And so Coach Wolf and I flew up early for the practice, and Coach Holland was flying later than that. We were going to pick her up from the airport, and so she is the one who receives all the emails and all the information from the meet, not Coach Wolf, not me. So we have lunch. Me and Coach Wolf leave around 3 or 4 to pick her up from the airport. And we pick her up, and she's like, "Garrett, I'm sorry." I was like, "What's up?" She's like, "I'm sorry, your parents drove all this way, and I don't know if they can get back." I was like, "Don't worry." I was like, they're okay with staying and waiting to hear how the meet goes. They're okay waiting. She's like, "There's no meet." She's like, we're like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I thought y'all knew." She's like, we're like, "No, what?" She's like, "The meet's been canceled for about 4 hours." Apparently, right after we left, they canceled the meet, and we're like, "There's no way." She's like, "I was on the flight. I just got it as soon as I got off." She's like, "So I just knew about it now." She's like, "But I assumed y'all knew." And we're like, "No, we left." And I guess they announced it right after that national D1 had canceled nationals, and so they canceled it for D2 and D3 as well. And I was distraught. I didn't know how to feel. I knew I didn't. I knew I didn't have a guaranteed first place, but I knew there wasn't going to be much to stop me from getting it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just looked at Coach Wolf, and he looked at me, and he's like, "I don't know what to say." He's like, I don't think anything could prepare me to say anything to you." None of us knew what to say. We just drove to the hotel in silence, and I texted my parents. I didn't call them because I didn't want to talk. And I started seeing everyone's post about it and everything. All the D1, D2, D3 national athletes posting about it, and I just remember sitting there thinking, like, what's gonna happen? I was like, if they cancel this, what's next? But the main thing I was thinking of was I went there, and I wasn't gonna get my chance to wear TOU one more time and compete ever again. And then it was, I'm not going to get the chance to be standing up on the podium and have Coach Wolf hand me my award. So that really did it for me. I didn't know how to feel. towards then. And I mean, shoot, I'm sure some of us, we still don't know how we feel now.
Wow. How did you get back? How did you get back to Texas with everything shut down?
So when they shut everything down, the NCAA, of course, was in charge of everyone's travel. So if they charter buses, they just turned around and drove back. Well, Coach Holland was like, hey, our flight says we leave in 6 days. What do we do? They're like, as of right now, you have to leave in 6 days. She's like, we can't do anything else for you. She's like, ma'am, I can't get any flights out. And Coach Holland was on hold for 5 to 6 hours, trying to get a different flight every day. But we ended up not being able to because we were just, 3. There was teams of 32, 14s, 20s, people trying to get home. Not just us, but D1 and D2. So we ended up sitting there. So it was crazy because they had shut that down, but they hadn't shut everything down yet. So she was like, well, guys, the spring's canceled too. She's like, outdoor season's canceled. But I only had my indoor season left. So I was like, well, that sucks for them too. I'm sorry. But she was like, so we're just going to do what we want. We ate at Longhorn Steakhouse like every other night. We went to a few arcades. We saw every movie. And it was crazy because it was like just us and throwing that and athletes. So we just kind of did whatever we wanted. So she was like, I can't make it up to you, but, this is what we do. I actually have a video in my memories. And it's me and Coach Wolf in the arcade. And it's like one of those hammers that you got to hit the high one. And I ended up winning it. And I was like, it's not nationals, but it's kind of close.
Yeah, there you go. Get you a medal.
So I'm guessing you and Coach made amends after the Frisco fiasco as well. So
yes, Coach Holland and I definitely did.
That's awesome.
Like I said, it was definitely a growing up moment. And she's retired this past year, and I couldn't have been happier for her because she deserved it. But no, her and I definitely made amends because I realized how, everyone's entitled to be immature at one point as long as you improve from it. And I definitely, I even apologized to her. I was like, I'm definitely sorry, that I acted this way, especially when, so afterwards I GA'd there for a few years and I ended up asking Coach Holland. I said, look, I know what I was in the past. I know. And she's like, but I've seen how you progressed. That's not you. You're not the same person you were your sophomore year. I was like, thank you.
Thank you.
But yes.
Well, hold on. One thing I want to bring up too is also getting back to football. You were a D3 All-American in football in the fall.
Yes, sir. That was tremendous. That was insane.
And so I have to ask you, did you take a lot of football attributes into your throwing and even coach yourself up? What kind of football player were you?
So I was definitely an aggressor. I never took a hit, and I always gave them. And that's what also made my, aggressive throws very natural. There was never a moment where I wasn't aggressive when I was throwing. And so same thing with football. I played next to some great guys, and I threw with some great guys. So I knew, camaraderie was there. And again, I was able to take in football in high school and college and transfer it to throwing in college because I had a team in college that had a goal. We were trying to win conference. And then after that, we were trying to go and place a national. So having that team camaraderie and competing year round definitely set the tone to where I wasn't going to take any time off. And my head coach for football knew that. Coach Gus then told me, Coach Gus, but he was like, Garrett, he was like, you had a tremendous season. This was when I went to nationals the first time in outdoor. He was like, but you're going into senior year football now. He's like, you've been going hard since last August. He's like, he's like, it's late May. He's like, you need to take a break. He's like, you need to take 2 weeks. He's like, I was like, Coach, I'm ready to go back to some workouts. I can go today. He's like, no. He's like, you need to go home. You need to rest. He's like, eat whatever you want, relax, don't worry about workouts. And just when you start feeling like you're just a little bit chubby, get back to working out. So he definitely knew what kind of athlete I was, that I wasn't going to try and take time off. And he definitely knew that that's what I needed. He's like, you can't go year round without any set breaks. He's like, any athlete knows that. He's like, so you're no different.
Did you carry the same amount of weight, your playing weight, in your throwing weight?
Oh, so that was weird. So my freshman year, I was about 260. And then after I tore my pec, when I played the following year after that, I ended up being around 230. And my coach didn't know that because he was like, Gary, you look a little light. But after my injury, I was trying so hard to get back. I was working out 3 times a day. So I eventually started dropping weight pretty fast. And I always make the joke because the first conference ring I had, I can't wear it again right now because I was like 220 when they sized me for it. So that's at about a 9, and I'm an 11 right now. So my weight fluctuated after that, and he comes up to me right at the end of the year. He's like, Garza, how much do you weigh? Because he sees me moving. I'm moving just a little too fast, and I'm looking a little too thin. I was like, Coach, I'm at 255. I'm at 255 right now, Coach. He's like, if you would have got me on the scale, I don't know what I would have done. Probably had a heart attack. But he was like, well, let's try and get you up 15 pounds more in the summer. And I was at 225, 230. I busted my butt trying to get up in weight. I only ended up being able to get to 250. So I was under what I had told him.
Oh, wow.
And so I played that year at 250, and I was small. I got put on my butt a lot that year. And then after that, I got back up to playing weight the next year. So I threw that year at around 250, 260. Next year, I was at 275, and I threw that year at the same weight. And then my senior year, I threw at 285, 290, but I could still move. I made sure I always made fun because I couldn't touch the male sprinters. We had some pretty fast male sprinters, but I would race the female sprinters in their workouts. I would race them in 40s and 60s, and I would still beat them at 285, 290.
Wow.
And they would be mad. They would be losing it, throwing everything. I got really courageous one time, and I raced my friend. She was a long distance run. I don't know why I tried this, but I told her I could beat you in a 4. I had beaten all this girl sprinters in the 100, and then I'd beaten some in the 200. I was like, I can beat you, Kylie. I was like, I ran a 65, second, like 400 forever ago one time. And so
your parents were runners.
Yeah. So we ended up getting on the track, and like at around 220 yards, I'm going. I was like, I got this. I hit 250 meters. I'm like, So she's still like 20 meters in front of me, and then after that, I drop out. I tank. I'm done. And so they had finally, all the team had gotten their kick because they had finally lost. But no, I was in relatively good shape even when I was a little heavier in my senior year, so I could still move. That's why I was pretty graceful in the ring.
What position did you play on the O-line?
I ended up playing tackle in high school, but guard in college.
Oh,
I was a little
left
short.
or right?
I was only 6'2". I played left guard.
Left guard, nice. Now, are
Yep.
you left-handed or right-handed when you threw?
I'm right-handed.
Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. You can ask your question now.
Well, my question goes back to Coach Wolf, and this is one you usually ask. But you talked a lot about how important he was to you. So tell us a little bit more about that relationship that you guys had.
He's amazing. I don't think there's ever a moment where I think that I could have been successful without him. He not only was a great coach, he was an amazing friend. Whenever I started getting into my GA years, I remember getting a call. I was in bed. It was like 10 o'clock, and my phone rings, and it's him. He's like, "Hey." I was like, "Okay, what's up?" He's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm just laying here, Coach. What's going on?" And he's like, "Well, I want to ask you something, but you don't have to say yes." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "I have a spot, and I kind of want you to fill it." I'm like, "We work at the same school, so it's not coaching." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I want to know if you want to stand in my wedding and be a groomsman."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Are you kidding? I'm ecstatic. That's amazing." He was like, "Okay." He's like, we're the bachelor trip will be playing later. He's like, "But I just want, I thought you'd be happy if I asked you." I was like, "Coach, I couldn't be more thrilled today." And his wedding was beautiful. He got married last November, and it was amazing. I was in Iran at the time, and I drove down after season was over. I think our season had just ended, and he was getting married the next week. And I was like, "We're not going to playoffs." I put in my days. I'm going. and it was great, beautiful. I was happy for him and his wife, but our relationship still is to this day the same as it ever was when I was throwing. I had, especially because after conference, it was a lot of me and him time. We had a lot of me and him workouts, a lot of me and him practice. Same thing for indoors. I mean, there wasn't one thing that we didn't really bond over. It was something that I definitely don't think that I could gotten as far in my life as I am right now without that relationship, because I hold him very close to my heart. I even told my wife this past year. I said, "You don't know how many times I think about that. I couldn't be up there for him to give me that award. I think about that more often times than I probably should. But it's all because I wanted to do that for him. I'd realized, like, when I wanted to win nationals, I wanted to win it, but I didn't want to win it for me. I wanted to win it for more than everyone else that had helped me to get me there. And I don't think that there'll be a day that I won't think about something that Coach Wolf ever talked to me about, taught me in a practice, or we laughed about. I love that man, and I don't think that'll ever change.
Oh, that's a great answer.
So you're a coach right now, right? You coach.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
do you find yourself saying a lot of the things to your athletes that Coach Wolf told you?
Oh, absolutely. I quote all my coaches so many times, like that I just mantra what they mantra to me. Especially when I see things that I messed up on, and I'm like, oh, maybe sometimes it works. And I always say, Coach Wolf always was like, I'll live a great life knowing that I was a better coach than I ever was a better athlete. And I aspire to be the same. I love my athletes. I had a few great athletes in Iran that were going to be pretty good at our little division. I have a kid who's going to be a senior. I got his sophomore year. We got to regionals and missed it. He got fourth place to go to a state. Same thing last year. He got fourth, played through a little better, and qualified in regionals and discus too. I hope that kid figures it out, and I love him to death too. But I always try to think, love the kids like I was loved, because every coach I had loved me, and I didn't deserve it. And I don't think I ever did, but those coaches loved me like I was their own, and I always cherish that, because my senior year, Carl Gustafson ended up retiring, and he told me, he's like, I've done a lot of things. He's like, I was going through a box, like at the end of the football season. He's like, and I had a checklist of things I wanted to do, and he had made it when he had started coaching. It was like, go to state and lead a team, do this, be a head coach, be an athletic director. And the third one it said, be a great father. And he had said, he didn't really know if he could look at himself the right way if he did check it off so easily. And that's the thing about coaching, is the guys that I've had coach me, they loved me, like, and the other teammates and throwers, coaches, players, linemen, like we were their own. And that's not something that you can teach. It's just something you are. There's definitely coaches that can't do that, but I was blessed to have that happen to me, and that's what I try to aspire to do. I tell the kids, you're here, you're giving your time, you're putting in the work. I love you, because you have no understand that how hard it is to get that out of kids, these days. And for whatever reason it is, that's just how it is nowadays. So it's not like the old days, but if you show up and work out and do the things that you're supposed to do, you actually try, you listen, there's nothing I won't do for you. Yeah. And just like I did, kids will stumble along the way that underneath me, and I know that. And I want to be as patient with them as just as my coaches were with me, because no, everyone deserves a second chance, and everyone deserves to be coached. It doesn't matter if you're the fifth string to the first string. Everyone's out there doing the sport that they love, giving their time. And so I just try to do the same thing that they did to me.
That's awesome.
So you're coaching in Odessa right now. You're not at Iran anymore, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First season at Odessa Compass.
Okay, nice. How's that going so far? Or I guess, are you about to start, I should say?
Oh, we started last week. Yes, sir. We started last week. Going great. My head coach is Coach Floyd White. He spent a little time at Midland Legacy, and he played at Eastern New Mexico, and then being a GA at Iowa. So he's great. Got a great philosophy. Got a great relationship that he builds with the kids. And I'm learning so much with him. Learn more about being a good coach. I definitely
You coaching the
have.
throws?
Yes, sir. I'm also coaching the throws and ecstatic to be. I don't think I'll ever not have a job coaching the throws.
That's all.
I think that's what I bring to the table greatly, and so I'm excited for that because we got a lot of young bucks out there, guys and girl squads. I'm excited. It wasn't so much they didn't, no one could do it at Compass last year. Last year there was only 2 male coaches on staff and about 3 or 4 on the female staff. They were very small for a 3 numbers, and so Coach White went in there and changed a whole lot of the culture there, and had a lot of kids bought in. He changed the way things were done, and so the school board and the school decided to give him some support and enabled him to hire a full staff. And so we end up only getting the staff brought up to 6, but I mean so it's a little low numbers for the 3A division for football, but it's all because he set in a lot of good procedures and a lot of good culture there. And so I'm glad that he asked me to be able to be a part of it. We're doing great so far. Had a great first week. Kids are doing great. Got a lot of kids that never even played football before. Not played high school football. It's never played football. So a lot of raw talent there. So just like anyone you convince to be a thrower, it's raw talent. So you get out there and you just try to start molding them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What do you teach?
I teach. So I'm history composite. So I am teaching government and economics this year.
Okay.
I'm excited teaching the seniors.
I'm about to start year 28 of teaching, and I coached
Oh, bless your heart.
20. Yeah. Last year was my first year to not coach, and I did the whole realm of history too, but I've stepped away from it. But that's awesome.
So you're married? Do you have kids?
I am married. I married my beautiful wife this past June 22nd. So newly married. Her Jillian Garza now. I love my beautiful wife. We have not had a family started yet. But when the Lord decides it's time is right for us, that's when we'll have it.
Was she a thrower? What's her collegiate background?
She just went to Angelo State University as a student. I ended up meeting her at a student teaching convention, and we ended up. I was already out of college at the time, so I just went there to go start networking, trying to do some stuff. Ended up meeting her last year. I got her first year at IRAM was my second year. So she ended up coaching volleyball and basketball and tennis. And so now we're both over at Compass, and she's doing volleyball and basketball, and I'm doing where they haven't done installed powerlifting yet, but we're looking to get it next year. So when next year happens, I'll be the head powerlifting coach. Wow. And I'm doing football, junior high basketball, and then high school track and field.
Oh, wow. You're going to be busy.
Full plate again. Oh, yeah.
Y'all are just going to be passing each other, going
That's
to meet.
exactly how it feels right now.
Are your classrooms close to each other? Maybe you can at least see each other in the hallway.
We're one hallway, so we're pretty close. And she's teaching a full load. So she's got both junior high and high school athletics, but also 6 full classes. Because she's teaching junior high English, and I only have 3 government classes, and then junior high and high school athletics. So I got 2 off periods, so I'm happy.
Y'all are busy.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. I got a question. So did you think about maybe continuing to throw after that situation in North Carolina? Because you were right there throwing 18 meters, and I'm sure your mindset was like, man, if I could get 19, and just think if I didn't do football, I did have some rest and recovery, and maybe even individualize my training even more, I could maybe go 20.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely considered taking the time and pursuing that. I had known more often than not, I wanted to be a coach more than I wanted to be an athlete. I knew that going into it. So I did look at it, and believe it or not, I still go out there and throw. I still go out there and sling it and have a good time. Whenever, and I told Coach, I was stressed my first GA year, and more often than not, if I had a rough day, you could find me at the rings just doing dry runs, just getting out of my head. And so I still go out there every once in a while and still throw. I'm definitely still in the lower 17s, but I have a good time.
Those kids are going to be very blessed to have you.
I'm kind of curious. I really want to know your perspectives because, you know, we try to influence a lot of kids that listen to this and coaches, Texas high school coaches that listen and stuff like that. But there's maybe a different mentality when, you know, I'm looking to go through in college and I figure I got to go D1 or I got to be, you know, in this conference to do this, you know, but you went to D3 and had an All-American career in football and All-American career in throwing. Give us your perspective of why somebody should look at D3 schools.
Why D3? Till you loved asking me that question. No, why D3 was more of it's a better fit for finding why you want to go to the school. I feel like when it comes down to it, it's going to be whether or not you want to go there. More so, I mean, for some people, it comes down to whether or not they can pay for you to go there. I was blessed enough for TLU to have, you know, taken an academic chance on me with my academic scholarship. I was in work study. There wasn't a year that I was at TLU that I didn't work as well, you know, to help pay. But as far as why D3, it's more of that D3 appealed to me because the great academics, I knew I was going to have to become, I knew that I wasn't a student for TLU. I was a student that could be made at TLU. And that I truly believed. And when I recruited there, I pitched that. I said, look, I told a lot of them, like, you may not be the student there that you need to be here, but TLU will make you that. And they definitely made that for me. And I always tell everyone, you know, I think every athlete thinks about it at one point in their collegiate life is, do you really love that sport enough? Do you really love this enough? And D3 is the one place where it'll test you because you're not getting paid to do it. You know, there's about, you know, 2,000 people in the stands on a good day.
Yeah.
But if you really love it, you're going to figure out how much you do love it or you don't. And what appealed to me was the fact that I knew no matter how hard I was going to be tested, and I got tested when I was there, that I wasn't going to back down. As I would encourage everyone that if you're looking at a college, I don't think the division matters. I told them that too. It wasn't just me, but we had athletes that I knew could have played at other places, that could have thrown, could have ran at other places too. There wasn't a meet that I didn't go to that I didn't beat D1, D or D2 athletes there. You know, so as far as track and field specifically goes, it doesn't matter where you go. It's your times, your throws, your meters, your marks, whatever. That is what matters. Doesn't matter what division you go to. Because when I went to Texas State and beat everyone from, you know, this state, you know, Northern Arizona, Florida, USF, doesn't matter where they were. It just mattered where they were on the play sheet. So track and field, it's all about what you can do when you step in the lane. When you step in the ring, it's all about you. Doesn't matter. Now, it meant a little more to me because I took pride in what I wore on my chest. But when it came down to it, it was wherever the best thrower, sprinter, or jumper, or vaulter is going to take care of it that day. It doesn't matter where they're from.
Wow. That's a great answer, dude. That's a great answer. So for people that aren't familiar with Texas Lutheran, it's in Seguin, but tell us a little bit more about it. And, you know, if somebody's maybe looking to decide where they want to go after they graduate, why they maybe should look at Texas Lutheran.
Texas Lutheran, for lack of better words, is just a pristine education choice that allows you to still compete in the sports that you love. That's what I found out at TLU. It was tremendous academically. I had known a lot of people in the business administration degree path and the accounting degree path. And once I started talking to them, they would talk about, you know, what they do, where they go. And I'm like, well, didn't y'all just win something? What happened? I'm like, well, we went to this, you know, this business, whatever it's called, convention or whatever. And they're like, based on the competition we had, we beat Baylor and A&M. Like, that's just what we do. Like, and I was like, are y'all kidding me? They're like, oh yeah, we do it all the time. And they're like, we've done 3 of the last 4 years. And then the nursing program there took off wildly. You can get your BSN in 16 months there. And apparently that's great. I was like, I don't know how long it takes to get that, but that's really good. So once you understand what you want out of college, there's not too many pegs that TLU can't really fit in for that academically. And I don't care what anyone says, that's what you go to for college, because you're going to be done doing the sport you love a lot sooner than you think, no matter what you do, and what's going to last is that education. And so D3 enables that for people. NAIA enables that for people to get, academic and athletic scholarships. So what TOU offered was a great chance to get that degree that meant something, that had a great network of alumni, and allowed us to be competitive in the sports we loved. There wasn't a sport there that we were just getting tossed around at. We were competitive. We had great athletes. Baseball was, I think my freshman and sophomore year, they got number 2 in the nation. Softball, I don't want to talk about them. They lost like 4 games in like 3 years. That's all they did. They were national championships 2 out of the 3 years, and the third year they got second. What else? Basketball, I think won conference at one point. So there wasn't a sport there that wasn't competitive, and so that coming from a great academic school was something you couldn't ask for. But that was all a testament that what was bred there.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is amazing.
Texas Lutheran needs to hire you as their spokesperson.
True, I told them that. Don't worry, they probably wouldn't pay that much.
Yeah. I'm curious, dude. You have great insight on like college athletics and what coaching's about. I'm going to ask you because I'm just curious what you're going to say. And I'm sure you keep up with what went on over the weekend and Friday with Pac-12 and certain schools going to the Big Ten and into the Big 12. Being a D3 athlete and you see that kind of outside in, what's your perspective of that? And where's D1 heading? And kind of what's your perspective on that? Because it's not going into D3. No, it's not doing in D2. We don't hear that shit. It's just the money-driven schools and all about this.
And a simple answer is Division I athletics, specifically basketball, baseball, softball, and football. It is being geared towards exactly what we hate, which is it's not about college athletics anymore. It is a business now. And that is painful because we know that at the professional levels, that is where a majority of the percentage of athletes are coming from. And unfortunately, they are being robbed of their chance to be able to fall in love with what college athletics is supposed to be. College athletics is obviously a gateway to the professional leagues, but it's a chance to become a part of something that you can live with forever. I mean, if you graduate from Texas Tech, A&M, OSU, LSU, UCLA, I mean, you are part of them forever.
Yeah.
But at some point along the way, it became that's not what it's about anymore. It became about, well, who's going to get me to the league faster? For basketball, how long do I have to be here until I can leave and go to the NBA? Because it's a lot sooner than football. For football, it's where can I get on the field faster? Where can I play on TV faster? So that way people can see me. And it hurts because I know there's still some people out there that play, and they're the people that play maybe 3 games a year, maybe 3 games every 4 years. And that's it. But that is what college athletics is about, because they take that and propel them into their life. Because again, like I said, athletics is done, it's done. And again, alumni networking happens. And then a lot of people like that you were a college athlete because they know you had great teamwork, you know how to fit in a structure. And at some point you can become a leader if you had that in your background. But when it becomes a business, college athletics gets robbed of that. And I think that's what's happening with the conferences. Because again, you see some movement in the D3s, but not much, mainly because of travel. Same thing with D2. It's the ones that are leaving up to go to the, the smaller Division I level. And so when it comes to just the big D1 schools, I fear that it's just going to be all where the money is going to be made for the NCAA.
Great answer.
It's sad too, because it is. Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way. It is a business, even with the transfer portal and all that. It's not about you loving or being committed to a school. It's about the better job. Where are you going to get the more?
Yeah. And even on the auxiliary sports like track and field, especially on the women's side, it's really, golly, you're going to take your girls track team from Oregon and they're going to go to Maryland to a conference meet on the West Coast, and then all of a sudden got to drive back. They're not doing charter, they're doing commercial.
Yep. That is all that matters to them. And that's what's sad. I really hope that eventually someone wakes up, someone important enough that can make a decision wakes up and realizes that, because that's who's getting robbed, is the people that are living that and getting that taken away from them.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, dude,
you always ask about the current throwing in the world.
She won't let her ask.
Oh, he
Do you still keep up with current throwing? What's your perspective on?
the current
Of
thrower.
course I do. Of
Okay.
course I do. I love current throws. I have a picture. I went to D1 Nationals my senior year. I got to see Peyton Underdahl throw his last meet for NDSU. I got a picture of them. I was so thrilled. I was so nervous. My friend had to ask for me. So every time I watch him throw, I look at that picture because I lose it. I love it. I love the current throwing world. Especially because I'm a shot putter. Brandon Krauser is doing amazing things, and all the throwers around him are doing amazing things too. And I love watching Tripp throw because of course he lived out my junior high dream. You know, I'm gonna go throw at UT. No, that's what Tripp's gonna do, not me. So,
Well, being in Round Rock, that was your school, I'm sure, for sure.
Yes. So I loved watching him succeed and going on. I still love watching Tamond. I follow him on all social media, and I always leave a comment and love what he's doing. I love the people he's working with in Garage Strength. There's a lot of people out there. Knight and all them that work with y'all. I threw up against them a few times at ACU. So I love the fact that they're out there doing what they're doing too. So there's not a day goes by I'm not in tune with the throwing world right now. I'm always if I'm at my in-laws, I've got the phone there, fizz meet going. I'm just watching it. So there's not a meet that I usually miss because I'm watching someone's live stream.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, and that's what we love is there's a purity to throwing. And that's the thing is you're talking about D3. Like in my mind, I was on the ring's the same size, the shot put's the same. You know, the chalk's still the chalk. Let's tape our wrist up and go throw. I don't care if it's at Texas or wherever. You know, let's go compete. And that's the cool thing about throwing is all that auxiliary limelight bullshit. Some of that stuff really doesn't matter. You know, so,
absolutely,
for sure, man. Well, dude. Man, you were now not to bring up something bad, but Coach Wolf is, and this is us up talking. He's no longer at Texas Southern or Texas Lutheran, right?
Yes, sir. Correct.
So what's he doing? Has he landed a job?
I know he's still deciding between something in out of the education / coaching sector, but he did get an offer from another school in conference. I won't say it so that way no one gets mad. But he is, and I know he was last time we spoke, which was at my wedding. He was entertaining an offer about that. So I was thoroughly sad to see him leave. I think that TOU missed a good opportunity to be able to promote him to head coach.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, there's a lot of good coaches out there that are throws people that can be head track coaches. Just because you are a throws coach does not mean you do not know the rest of the track world. Because I do. I could jump in and coach the sprints, relays, jumps at any time. But that's because I love track. And I think that's missed on some people when they're trying to hire a head track coach. So I hope, again, there's nothing but the best is going to happen for him. There's way too much good karma in that man's way that he's not going to land where he's needed.
So is he still in Seguin, San Antonio areas, or is he?
Yes, he's in the Shirts area with his family.
Okay. All right. Well, big shout out to him for all this type stuff too. So just. Dude, you are really what we try to do here and have you people on, and you're the ideal fit for us. And I'm sad to say I wish you had got you on earlier, but we got you on, I guess, at a good time. So starting our season 7. So we're going to get your story out there because, you know, being a collegiate All-American in football and throwing, that's amazing. That really is.
And you said some really, really great things about how all that can work together and some great perspective on just being a college athlete that there are people out there who need to hear that. So thank you for
absolutely.
that. So did you I have to ask, you wind up throwing the shot put further than your older brother that went to King's?
Absolutely. I like the floor with him. He can't touch my college PR.
There you go.
Make sure this is the highlight of
there. We'll leave that in there just to rub it in his face. So
yes, sir.
Now, did you outthrow your sister in the hammer, even though the weight's the same? No.
Hammer was not my thing. I threw it to score at conference, and I did.
Gotcha.
That was it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank your wife, and good luck to y'all, man. Y'all have a great season.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Good luck to y'all.
We'd like to thank Garrett Garza for being on. Just a tremendous story where you're a multi-sport athlete on the collegiate level. and you might not have great high school numbers, but you have a belief in yourself and a will to go out to work hard and train and do what it takes to be successful in any competition. And he was definitely doing that at Texas Lutheran University in Seguin, Texas. I like the fact that, he had that goal mentality and writing goals on his whiteboard. We failed to ask him if he still does that, but I'm sure he probably still writes goals down someplace, which is a really good teaching. Get a whiteboard, write them up there daily. Once you achieve that goal, erase it and write a next one. And they could be weekly or something like that. Whatever you need. But I just like that competitive mindset he brought up too, and just that mentality of, competing. And I think sometimes too, our kids have trouble really not understanding how to compete. And sometimes that's just your natural instinct. But it can be taught to teach people to compete. But for him, it's very obvious. He's very competitive in everything he does.
Well, speaking of that, he learned with that one meeting he went to, that he learned how to be humble.
Mm-hmm.
He talked a lot about how he was an immature thrower, that he had to learn through trial and error. One of the key things that I love, numerous things he said about being a student, he had to learn how to be a good student. And that in turn made him a better athlete.
Yeah. And
he, through 2 years of not having the best academics, he figured it out and he improved from there. And the great lessons he's going to give, I assume he's in like year 1 or 2 of coaching, or not 1, 2 or 3.
Yeah, 2, 3.
He is going to be a blessing and have lots of wisdom to whatever kids that he gets to coach, because he passed on all those lessons from Coach Wolf and all the other, great coaches that he had.
For sure.
So, thank you, Garrett, and good luck this year on your football and your track season and your wife's volleyball season and all that.
Yes.
You guys are a busy family. Busy coaching family. So we want to thank our sponsors for season 7, Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Go to ttfca.org. All the latest and greatest about track and field in the state of Texas. Fourthrows.com. Quality implements priced right. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. When you're in the Austin area, reach out to Zach Phillips at Ready Up Athletic Development, 512-507-8347. And check out his basic throw strength program that is on, oh my gosh, what's it on?
Train Heroic.
Train Heroic, thank you. That is on the Train Heroic. You can go find his basic throw strength. Use the code THROWS10 to get 20% off of that. And always a shout out to Big Frogs of Colleyville for all our printing and embroidery needs, and Lifting
W mobile lifting station. We're doing lessons for Olympic lifting, bodybuilding, personal training, weight loss. If you're feeling chubby, we can get you straightened out on that.
Garrett Garza said, if you're a little chubby, get up and go work out.
Get up and go work out. That website of Lifting DFW, and then remind everybody about our YouTube channel. And go follow us on YouTube.
Hello, Talking Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow-plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
And our throwing factory. If you picked up throwing this summer, got a little taste of it, would like to get a little bit better, maybe you went to Iowa or to Oregon and you just want to get All-American, you want to be on that stand, you want to be in the top, but you weren't, reach out to us. Love to do some lessons with. We're 8 years old up to 18 or older. All right, thanks.
Thank y'all. We'll see y'all down the road.